Chapter 30. I make it to Ken's office in no time. What are you doing here, Mom asks. Didn't want to take the school bus. Thought I'd come by to say hi to Ken. The idea I would want to say hi to Ken makes Mom so happy she forgets to ask why I'm sweating. He's out showing a property, but he should be back soon. She thinks a sec, like she's wondering if the moment is right, then goes for it. What would you say if we asked Ken for dinner? Nothing special. I could pick up some KFC, take a pie out of the freezer. Sure, great. It is, too. If anyone calls about what just happened, Mom won't yell at me till Ken's gone. By then, she'll have had time to settle, and I can give her a good story, like I went to visit Benji's grandpa to be nice, and ended up in Mrs. Murphy's room by mistake. Stop freaking. No one's calling. Our phones are unlisted on account of Dad, and anyway, the way I scribbled my name, who could read it? Even if Benji rats to the home, by tomorrow things will have blown over. All the same, my stomach keeps churning. I try to forget what happened by pretending it's just a bad dream. Ken's back at 5 to close up. As for dinner, that'd be great, he says, like he's been waiting for this since forever. I'll bring a bottle of wine. We sit down at 6:30, till soon at 7:30. Then 7:30 becomes 8. The more time passes, the more I relax. Okay, I shouldn't have been in Mrs. Murphy's room, but what did I do? Nothing. Just talk to her. Since when is talking to someone a crime? I mean, it's not like I'm the one who smashed up her room. I start to enjoy Ken's stories. He's not talking big or acting cool like he was at the beginning. He's more like when we were looking at that photo of his kids. He tells a story about camping with his kids a few years back. It was his first time in a tent since scout camp. He's not really into outdoor stuff, but he thought they'd like it. Anyway, he couldn't get the campfire going, so they ate a few cold hot dogs and marshmallows and went to bed. Only he forgot to put away the leftovers, not to mention the hamburger meat, and in the middle of the night some coyotes dropped by for a meal. So there he is, terrified by they're going to come into the tent and eat his kids, and all he has to bash them with is his daughter's teddy bear. So how scared were you? I grin. Let's just say it's a good thing I brought along an extra pair of underwear, Ken jokes. I can't believe I was such an idiot, not just to leave the food out, but to worry about a few coyotes. Like I said before, coyotes are scared of people. I've been in this area for 15 years and only seen one a few times, but boy, that night I kept imagining the headline in the Bugle, local family swallowed by coyotes. We roar with laughter. I think, Mom could do worse. Out of nowhere, a car drives up to the house. Its lights are low. Expecting someone, Ken asks. Mom goes pale. She shakes her head. Maybe it's Mr. Sinclair. But I know what she's thinking. Dad. There's a knock on the door. Let me answer it, Ken says. His fist tightens. Not much, but enough in case there's trouble. Mom nods. Ken opens the door. 2 cops are standing outside. One's chunky, the other thin. Ken knows them. Brian. George. What's up? May we come in? Of course, Mom says, scared and confused. I'm Catherine Weaver. She shakes their hands. Is this about my ex-husband? Is this about Mike? No, says the heavy cop. I'm afraid it's about your son. I want to throw up. Cameron? Cameron, what did you do? Nothing. I can explain. What do you mean you can explain? Perhaps if we could sit down, the other cop asks. Mom shows us into the living room. She sits between me and Ken on the couch. He squeezes her hand. The cops sit opposite us on the leather armchairs. The heavier one does the talking. We understand your son was suspended from school last week because of a fight with Cody Murphy, he says to Mom. I wasn't fighting. He was beating me up. Cameron. Mom's glare shuts me up. This afternoon, Cameron went to Wolf Hollow Haven nursing home. He was seen leaving the room of Mrs. Hannah Murphy, Cody's great-grandmother. Mrs. Murphy was visibly upset and needed restraint, in the course of which she received some bruises. Several of her framed photographs were smashed. When a nurse tried to detain Cameron, he knocked her to the ground. She twisted her ankle. Cameron? Mom's eyes were wide in horror. It's not what it sounds like. Does Cameron need a lawyer? Ken interrupts. That's for you to decide, the thin cop says. This is simply a warning visit. At this point, we don't believe there will be charges. Look, I say, I was in the nursing home with my friend Benji to see his grandfather. On the way out, I ended up in Mrs. Murphy's room by mistake. She went nuts on me, swinging her cane and knocking over her pictures. When the nurse grabbed me, I panicked and ran. I didn't mean for her to fall. Then silence. The heavy cop looks right through me. According to Benji, you went to the home to check it out as a place for your grandfather. What? Mom says. Grandpa's in perfect shape. Benji says you left him and his grandfather 5 or 10 minutes before the incident, the cop continues. That's an awfully long time to be in someone's room by mistake. It's also a strange coincidence that it was the room of Cody Murphy's great-grandmother. Cody Murphy, the boy with whom you had a fight. We understand it started when you taunted him about his family. No, that's not how it happened. The heavy cop turns to Mom. It's no secret in town that Cody's had a rough go since his father died. The past few years he's lived with his paternal grandparents and great-grandmother. He's very close to her. Last year she went to the nursing home. He's taken it hard. The poor boy, Mom says. Cody? Poor boy, I exclaim. He bullies everyone. And we're supposed to feel sorry for him? It's not fair. The police aren't here because of anything Cody did, Mom snaps. They're here because of you. The thin cop takes out a notepad and points at me with his pen. The nurse who twisted her ankle could have you charged with assault. Cody's family could have you charged on any number of counts. You could end up in juvenile detention. Lucky for you, none of them wants that. What they want is the truth. What were you doing in that room? What do I say? When I open my mouth, this strange sound comes out, all gasping and choking at the same time. I wanted to find out what her cousin looked like, Matthew Fraser, the man she said was murdered by Mr. McTavish, the owner of this farm in the 1960s. Oh no, Mom says quietly. This is about your history project? She turns to the cops. He's been researching a history project about the farm. In the Bugle, I say, it's all in the Weekly Bugle, except for Matthew Fraser's picture. The cop exchanges glance. It's an old story, the thin cop tells Mom. Back in the day, Mrs. Murphy claimed Frank McTavish killed his wife, son, and Mrs. Murphy's cousin here on the farm. It turned out to be nothing more than a wife who ran off with her son and boyfriend. That's not true, I blurt. Mrs. Murphy was right. What do you mean? Mr. McTavish killed them. Their bodies are in the attic. Chapter 31. Everyone's jaw drops. I'm sorry, Mom apologizes to the cops. Cameron's always had an imagination. But this is real, Mom. The bodies are taped in plastic hanging from a rafter. You can't possibly know that, Mom says. The trap to the attic was sealed before we moved here. Check it out if you don't believe me. Cameron's right, Ken says. I think we should go to the attic. Yes, I could give Ken a hug. You're encouraging this? Mom gasps. No, I'm saying Cameron believes what he told us. Until he sees for himself that it's nothing, it'll be on his mind. But it's nailed shut, Mom says, and the nails are covered with so many coats of paint we'd need a hammer and crowbar to break in. Think of the damage. I am, Ken says with a nod in my direction. Gee, thanks, Ken. I guess I was wrong about you being my friend. Ken pulls out his cell phone and dials. He holds up a hand for us all to shut up. Art, it's Ken Armstrong. I'm next door with Brian and George from the station. Look, I know this sounds strange, but we need to get into your attic. Catherine's afraid there'll be damage opening the trap. I'll pay for repairs, but I wanted your okay. He holds the receiver away from his ear. I'm guessing it's not okay. Art, I'm sorry. I can't say why on the phone, but it's important. Trust me. Thanks. He hangs up. Art will be right over. Mr. Sinclair drives up in his pickup, a stepladder and toolbox in the back. I'm afraid Cameron's let the research paper go to his head, Mom tells him. He thinks Frank McTavish killed his wife, their son, and her friend and locked their bodies in the attic. Mr. Sinclair gives me a look. So, you're a guesser. No, sir, I'm a knower. The only thing I don't know is what you know. Mr. Sinclair snorts and heads upstairs with his stuff. We follow into the big room and watch him set up under the trap door. I'm kind of scared, but at least for now, nobody's talking about Mrs. Murphy. Ken volunteers to do the grunt work, but Mr. Sinclair won't hear it. He scoots up the ladder, pries out the nails with a chisel and hammer, and bashes open the hatch with a crowbar. I knew he was tough, but wow. Mr. Sinclair comes down. If this is a crime scene, you boys better go first, he tells the cops, wiping sweat from his forehead. The cops turn on their flashlights and go up. The beams scan the darkness. Silence. Mom puts an arm around me. Ken holds her hand. None of us breathes. They come down, all serious, and whisper with Mom. Ken and Mr. Sinclair. Right, as if I couldn't handle what I just told them. I stare up into the pitch black. Sorry, Jackie, your hiding place isn't secret anymore. But I had to tell. I had to. The whispering stops. Mom steps forward. Cameron, she says, would you like to come up with us? I nod, heart pounding. I climb the ladder after the cops. Mom, Ken, and Mr. Sinclair follow. Have a good look, the heavy cop says when we're all in the attic. He shines his flashlight in all directions. The attic is empty. No, it's impossible. Mom grips my shoulders. You see, Cameron? You see, it was all in your head. It wasn't, I pull away. The bodies, they were here. Somebody moved them. The heavy cop has had enough. Who? When? Where? I don't know. Wait, in the barn, Jackie said Artie knew he didn't leave the farm with his mother. In the cemetery, he said Artie knew the secret place where he was hidden. I whirl on Mr. Sinclair. But you know Jackie was here too. Jackie? Mom sways. Ken steadies her. Jackie was the McTavish boy, Mr. Sinclair says. I showed Cameron pictures of us playing when we were kids. He left with his mother. Never saw him again. That's not true. How would you know? The skinny cop asks. I just do. Mr. McTavish must have figured he couldn't keep the bodies up here for long. He had to get rid of them. If you're so smart, tell us how, the heavy cop says. There haven't been any human remains show up around here as long as I've been alive. I know. He didn't bury them. What did he do then, Mr. Kid Detective? This is the most horrible thought I've ever had in my life, but it's the only thing that makes sense. I turned to Mr. Sinclair. Your father was Mr. McTavish's friend. He had a grinder. It would have been so simple. You know. Tell them. Oh my God, Mr. Sinclair, I'm sorry. Mom's breathing so fast, I think she'll faint. She cries out to anyone who will listen. Cameron's father, he tried to kill me. We've been on the run. Cameron's had dreams. He's mixed up in his head. He needs help. He's not well. Stop it, Mom. This isn't about Dad. You always blame Dad. Always. For everything. It's not his fault. Enough. No, it's not enough. It's never enough. No matter what I do, you think I'm crazy. You always have. Well, I'm not. If anyone's crazy, it's you. I drop to my knees, bang my fists on the floor, my head. Ken pulls me back. I fight him off. The heavy cop locks me in a chokehold. I black out.